Hello, energy beings, and welcome. This is the Aries Child Tarot reading. I am Elena Valdez. Welcome to my channel and Happy New Year. I cannot believe it's already January 2021. I'm excited to see what the year unfolds for all of us. And welcome. This reading is for parents, guardians, grandparents, anyone who is charged with the responsibility of caring for an Aries child. And please remember to subscribe, like, comment, all that good stuff. It really helps the algorithm. It allows the channel to grow. All right, so let's get started. Again, this is for the Aries child, January 2021. Okay, so let's start off with the first card, and the first position is what your Aries child is experiencing during the month of January. We have the Ace of Wands. What a beautiful card for little Aries to get. I love these cards. Aren't they just gorgeous and perfect for these readings? The Ace of Wands. I mean, to start off with, you know, the Wands is the fire element in the tarot deck. So already what this tells me is that your Aries child feels himself, herself in their little skin, like they feel comfortable in their own skin and whatever journeys they are taking on. The Ace is the beginning, though. The Ace is the very, very beginning of something new, something that hasn't yet been developed. So what this tells me is that your little Aries here is taking on some new projects, some new, potentially new classmates, new schoolwork, something that has to do with creativity and challenging oneself with his or her physicality, right? Because Wands also represents movement forward. It also represents action and raw energy. So when you're at the beginning of the Wands, meaning the Ace, it's a blank slate in any of those themes, right? So you could it could be as literal as you having a little one who's beginning to walk, or beginning to skate, or beginning to use a bicycle for the first time. Something that has to do with using their physicality to move forward and have fun because it's raw energy, right? And you see how satisfied this little one here is, so independent, right? And Aries by nature is very independent, right? This reminds me of my niece who is an Aries rising. And the independence shows up in an Aries native, whether it's Aries rising, Aries sun, very early on. These are the kiddos who start figuring out that they can take care of their own problems. I'll give an example of this because I feel that it's important to. I'm going to give a little story about my niece. You know, she's an Aries rising, and my brother, her father, was telling me a story about how, you know, I guess she had like a cute little shoe with a little design on it. Something on the shoe snapped. And so she went around the household. She started with her mom. Mom, will you help me fix my shoe? And she was busy. Then she went to my brother. My brother was busy. And she pretty much went to the grandparents and everyone in the household. And no one was really available to help her at that moment to fix her shoe. Well, moments later, the house is silent and everyone's like, well, where did she go? Where is she? And they found her in her little room with all sorts of materials. Literally, like she found glue, she found string, she found like a half of another shoe. And she was literally assembling her little shoe all on her own, trying to figure out how to put it back together. And that's really what this energy is, right? These children come into this world somehow knowing that they have the ability to get things done, right? And so this is where it's important for the parent, the guardian, not to dim that natural ability, right? Or not to dim that natural desire of a little Aries. And so my brother and my sister-in-law basically were like in awe, because this was very early on. I think she was maybe 2 or 3 years old at the time. And they were so in awe and impressed, and they realized that she was someone who was going to be, who was going to require this allowance of independence to explore on her own, right? And so this is exactly the energy. This really reminded me of that moment that my little niece experienced, because this is what you're experiencing, or your little one, your little Aries, is figuring out that they're very powerful in their own little way. Like whatever tools they have, see how she only has this little wand, her feet, her hands, and that's it. And she's on her little journey. And she's going to use what she has at her disposal to make stuff happen, or to take this little journey. So you are experiencing your child, you're starting to see glimpses of their own curiosity blossoming. And of course, this is the natural nature of children. Yes, I understand that. But you're going to see this on a whole other level with your little Aries, in a very creative, harmonious way with their own physicality. I keep coming back to physicality because I also think this has something to do with athleticism. Excuse me, athleticism. Yes, that's what I'm trying to say. So there's a combination here. There's something going on with either your child learning how to utilize their hands in a different way, learning how to put things together, experimenting with with their feet and their hands and their eyes or bodies, like really getting into the flow of their bodies. Perhaps it's a new toy that's introduced them to another facet of their body can do. I just saw someone on the trampoline, so maybe you just recently got one. Maybe they got one for the holidays. But there's an exploration that your child is coming into that's awe-inspiring and has them in their element, and they're very fruitful element. So this is a very beautiful thing to start off with, dear parent, for your little one. And yeah, so that's beautiful. So let's now go to the challenge. So this is what your child is experiencing in the month of January. Let's see what potential challenge they may be facing. Oh yes, strength. Oh, so maybe a little bit of stubbornness, right? And you see the mama here, the mama monster taming this little monster, right? Like trying to, but also playing and loving him up and just having a blast here, right? And strength is um, also represents the sign of Leo, right? So we have more fire element here, and Leo is playful and loving, and yes, a little stubborn also, and sometimes really wanting to do their own thing. So the challenge here, and perhaps it's more of a challenge for you, the parent, rather than the little Aries. So the challenge is going to be balancing out the boundaries, right? And you, the parent, having the strength to know how to decipher how far to let them go in this new journey, right? So, for example, let's say you have a little one who's just learning how to use their bike. Knowing, having the strength to put the line, like at what point is it too much? At what point, is he going to be doing wheelies on the bike? Is that the point to say, hey, let's take it back a notch? Or do you let your child go round and round the neighborhood all day long until midnight riding on their bike? In other words, this new way of being is going to inspire your child to maybe push a little too hard, right? And that is actually an Aries thing. Aries can tend to do that because when an Aries gets in flow, they get so into their flow and they're so enamored, especially if it's action, if action is involved in the flow, that they have no way of figuring out timing, right? Because they're in their element, they're in their flow. And so what ends up happening here is that you may have one that's being a little stubborn or maybe wants to play a bit much, and that's all they want to do. And so the challenge here could be receiving that balance, or maybe wanting to play and explore this new facet with this new facet and potentially overdoing it. So the challenge here, it doesn't feel heavy to me at all. It just feels like there's going to be a little bit of, parents having to come in and, okay, sweetie, it's midnight, come back in. You had enough on that bike or trampoline, or Okay, I get it. You just learned to walk, but stop falling every two. Like you're going to want to, you're going to need to assess when is the right time to balance this out. Right? So that's that's not too shabby of a challenge to have, right? And on the flip of that, there's a lot of love there and a lot of fun. So you may also experience your child not really wanting to do other things outside of love and fun and creativity, which is actually really beautiful. Unless, of course, your child has all these responsibilities that they have to take care of, then maybe it becomes a bit difficult for you, the parent. But the bottom line here, though, mom, dad, grandparent, whomever's watching this, the bottom line here is that your child is coming to a different know about who they are. And it's beautiful. And it's about independence because both cards are about independence. Both cards are about action, fire, love, creativity, a little bit of stubbornness too, because that's what happens when you're independent, right? When you're independent, you want to do things your way. So it's twofold here. It's being aware that you're going to experience a little bit of stubbornness. And what Spirit here is saying is that it's a good stubbornness. And you'll be able to weigh how far is too far versus, what's good, a good, sizable, healthy independence. Okay. All right. So let's move on to the what your child needs most from you during the month of January. Oh, the High Priestess. I love this. Okay, I love every card. I know I geek out over every one of these cards. I love them. And the High Priestess is about trusting your intuition, trusting fate, trusting how things are meant to unfold, guiding without action, guiding through intuition. So guiding your little one, not so much by physical or like that, what do they call it? Helicopter parenting, right? Assisting them and being there for them in an intuitive way from afar so that they can experience this because they're in this 3D of a rawness energy. This is very physical, very raw. This is very receptive and intuitive. And it doesn't matter if you're male or female, right? Because this is not gender specific, this is energy specific. So the energy of the High Priestess is a feminine receptivity. Okay, it's very Piscean. It's very behind, like maybe watching your child. This is what your child needs. This is it. Here it goes. Taking care of parenting your child in a way that they don't really know you're parenting them or that you're watching over them, if that makes sense. The minute little Aries knows you're watching them and you're kind of peeking over the curtain, over the window to see what they're doing outside, they may stop, kind of censor themselves in their play. So this is kind of saying, of course, keep your watchful eye on little Aries as he or she is exploring this new way of being, but do it in a way that's receptive, intuitive, um, and being there in a more of an intuitive way, more like behind the scenes, right? Allowing them to explore and trusting, because this is a very trusting card. The High Priestess is all about the mysteries. Like the High Priestess knows the end result of a mystery or a secret. And so this is you, the parent, or what they need from you. So just allow them to be and trust that if they fall, if they scrape up, it's part of the process and it's okay. Some of you are going to experience a very, very rambunctious Aries, and it's going to bring up some fear, you, the parent, because perhaps you're seeing a side of your child that you hadn't seen before. I just picked up that some of you are going to need to take your child on extra walks, extra exercise, because there's going to be this raw energy that's just going to come into your little Aries and potentially bring that energy into the household, disrupting it a little bit, and not in a negative way, but just in a, ooh, what's this? energy, lightning bolt all of a sudden. So here, what your child needs is just be the maternal, and this is whether you're the father, mother, male, female, doesn't matter, but allowing there to be this flow of energy, because this is what High Priestess is also about, flowing with the energy, trusting the energy. Very beautiful. Okay, so what I want to do for you now, parent, before I close out, is I want to use the Light Seers deck to pull a card for you, the parent, an advice card. And sometimes it's in relationship to what your child needs from you, and other times it's just an advice card from Spirit for you, the parent, um, listening and watching this. So let's see, Spirit, what advice do you have for the parent, guardian, grandparent watching this reading here today, January 2021, for Aries child? What advice do you have? One card, please. Six of Swords, yeah. So the Six of Swords is essentially about pulling away from something or someone. Sometimes, if this was, let's say, a relationship reading just for you, or about jobs and things like that, it would be about pulling away from things that no longer serve us, right? But in this case, this is about you having the strength. Again, we're going back to the strength. This is about you having the strength to pull away from this helicopter. And I hate to use that term. I'm sorry for lack of a better term, but you know what I mean. Maybe like an over indulgent parent, if you will. I don't know which term is better, but I think you understand what I mean, right? So when you get the Six of Swords, it's about moving away to tranquil water, calmer situations. So this is going to be the advice for you, is to allow yourself to pull away from your usual, over parenting, if you will. If I'm not saying that you are an over parenting type of personality, but whatever you're used to doing, like maybe loosening it up a little bit and allowing your child to do what they need to do. At the same time, while this is happening here, it could also be triggering your own personal stuff. It could also be showing you where you're too tied. You see how these birds here, you see there's a string, right? And they are pulling her. They're pulling her away from something. Well, sometimes these strings can actually work the other way around. Instead of pulling us, it can work as anchors where we're stubborn and we're not allowing ourselves to move forward, or allowing our child to move forward because we want to stay anchored in the way that things have been. So Spirit here is saying that it's okay for you to allow yourself to move away from the norm of how you're used to parenting, because your child is about to go into some change. That is a definite, which is why you're being asked to have faith, to trust, to be receptive, to allow the flow to happen. And now here you're being asked to back off, move away, move forward, drop the strings that act more as anchors, instead of, like, drop the strings that are anchoring your child so much to the point that he or she can't move. Drop them, or instead of using them as anchors, use them to help you move forward instead. I hope that makes sense. This is actually very beautiful, because at the end of the day, what this is, it's about moving away from one way of being to become better. That's what this is. So this change that your child is going through is not only going to stimulate him or her to become better, but it's going to change your whole household. The dynamic of your household will change, because you, the parent, and the other children in the household, or the other adults in the household, will have to learn how to be different and move away from the usual way of being. And that's what this is about, moving away from things that no longer serve us into better, calmer ways of being. And that's what your child will be bringing to you this month in January. Beautiful. I love it. I'm super excited. Please leave a comment. I want to know what your little Aries did in January or is going to do or doing. And I'd love to hear from you. And please share this channel with your friends, other parents. I want to get this channel off the ground and going, and I hope it's been helpful for you. And please subscribe, like, comment, all that good stuff. You are amazing. Happy New Year. And I will see you back here again in February. Oh, and one last thing. If you're interested in a synastry reading, an actual astrology reading between you and your child, especially specifically what it is that your child needs most from you, the parent, from an astrological perspective, please reach out and I will set up an appointment with you and we can get a reading going. And I can do both astrology or tarot. All right. Have a great new year. Thank you so much for being here. See you in February. Goodbye.